All right, so we set up our flatting. This is a layer that I'll mark as yellow. I'll call it flatting. That is used professionally in digital coloring so that it's easy to select each area. Then what happens after that, I'm going to make it orange. So I like to do two different types of cheese on my grilled cheese, like maybe a little cheddar and Swiss together, right? So flat local color is what the colors actually are going to be that is behind. So a banana is what flat local color? Yellow, right? Unless it's a green banana. Right? And then Charlie Brown's shirt is what flat local color? Yellow. So local color means the color of the thing is no matter the lighting condition. And I don't know what color my unicorn is no matter the lighting condition, right? But I might have an inkling. So it's a good idea to find inspiration. You can find it from fine art. You can find it from commercial art. I like the work of this artist named Mark Mulroney. The reason we do the individual presentations is so we can get exposed to a lot of interesting artists. Now, Mark Mulroney does paintings and some digital art based on influences very similar to my own from like old comics. And you can see they're mostly just flat local color. So the green bushes are one green. The blue shirt and fabric is one blue. The yellow button is one yellow. The brown wood is one brown, right? All of that. But it's using the line art to really make that more visually interesting. And then the other thing I'm really inspired by, instead of just old kind of cartoons and comics, are skateboard graphics. So if you go to the assignment sheet, let me get back to it. So it's under Home, it's Assignment 5. You can shortcut to it under Assignments. And you'll see on the assignments page all of these helpful presentations, including ones from students, right? From digital honors students, all these mentorship presentations, from these midterm presentations, right? That all talk about digital coloring. But the one I'm talking about is the exhaustive explanation of digital coloring, right? And then just for inspiration, at the end of the instructions, I include, at the very end, some past examples, right? So I've done monster themes kind of off and on every fall semester, like different types. And in general, we're doing kind of monsters of ordinary circumstance this semester, but I call them mail order monsters, right? And so we have the same kind of process steps, the sketch, the line art, the coloring. But look at all the different types of coloring we have, whether they're my past examples or whether they're student past examples, right? It always goes through the same steps. And now we're getting into student work. And they'll have different personalities. Sometimes the color will be really clean, really limited, really flat. Sometimes it will have a little bit of highlight thrown in. Sometimes it'll be really, it will use just kind of subtle hard edge shadows. Sometimes gradients. So these are the kind of coloring techniques we're going to learn, but it's going to be up to you what to use and what to be inspired by. They can be really close contrast, kind of dark colors like this. They can be really, really saturated, kind of almost primary colors like that. They can be all in one color family like this, called analogous colors. Or just mostly analogous colors, yellows and oranges and grays, but with an accent of the green. On and on and on. And notice how these all live behind line art. And this is why it's digital coloring. So many examples. So what I'm going to be teaching you is the way to think about color and the kind of options you have for layering it up, but it always starts with flat color. And sometimes it ends with flat color. This is fully colored just with, oh no, there is some duotone there, but mostly flats. Mostly flats. And then sometimes the line art will disappear by the end because it's replaced by a color. So this inverted its line art at the end, so the line art's actually white by the time it's finished. So many. So you can scroll through those, you can kind of look. And then the other inspiration I put is, well actually I'm trying to remind myself what I put here. This was the full process for this guy. Since we just did Earth Day achievement badges, this is a little character for Earth Day. So that's the flat local color. That's step one, that's the cheese on the sandwich. Then you would have duotone hard edge as a variation. That's like cell shading, like animation. You could also soften that, have duotone soft edged. You can see that difference from hard edge to soft edge. You can do full spectrum color, which then has multiple tonalities within each local color. So you can see there's kind of yellows and oranges in the greens of the land masses. There's purples and pinks in the blues of the water. So that's full spectrum. Then you have full spectrum with dodge and burning. So like highlighting it so you'll see those little spots of more saturated color in certain spots. And then you have an offset put behind it so it looks better on different backgrounds. And this is what's called CMYK color separation, which we'll be learning more about. This is those colors being embroidered for kind of fabric use. This is it being put onto different backgrounds like a canvas bag, a t-shirt, a magnet, and as an achievement badge. Woo-hoo. So if you understand kind of the coloring steps, there's lots you can do with it. And then this is as a limited color t-shirt when you're trying to budget money. So that's what you want to be able to get from your spot illustration skills. You understand all the different ways you can color and how they can be modified to purpose. Now my inspiration since childhood was my sticker collection and these kind of skateboard stickers. And I really like this kind of thing. So I might take this, I'll just do a screen grab of it, because this is pretty out there coloring for that kind of Godzilla. And I might apply that a little bit to this project, my unicorn. And then, let's see, where was that one? This one's also pretty darn cute. And both of these are examples of hard edge duotone. So I might do a screen grab of that too. Command-Shift-4, just grab it. So why am I doing screen grabs? Well, once you have some inspiration for color palettes, for kind of finishes, I want you now to drag those into, doesn't matter their resolution, into your coloring. And just put them off to the corners, to the sides. This is color reference. Because what we can do in Photoshop when we color, and you can also do it in Photopea, is we can steal the colors directly, and we can just be inspired by the way they're handling their shadows and their highlights within the local color. Right? So here we have local color. Here we have very simple duotone hard edge. Here we have kind of full spectrum duotone hard edge. Right? Okay, so how can I layer this up? Well, first of all, I really like the pink of the tongue there. So what I'm going to do is take all of these, make that no color, all these smart objects I just dragged in, I'm going to put them into a group together, and I'm going to call that color reference. And I don't want to accidentally color on them, so I'm going to lock it, right? So what layers do I have so far? Let's just go from the bottom. This is how you set up digital coloring. I have blank white bread on the bottom. locked. I then have my cheese layer, which are my flatting colors. Remember, white is not part of them. If I want white as a flatting color, I have to paint it in. And I would never use white. I would always use off-white if you do. Then I have my color references locked. And then I have my black bread, my black line art, locked on top. Okay, now what's next? I am going to actually lock my flatting colors. And actually, no, I'm going to duplicate my flatting colors. Command J, and then lock the one underneath. And I'm going to call this, I called it faulting instead of flatting. Interesting. So now I'm going to lock the one underneath. The one on top, I'm going to rename local flat color, like Mark Mulroney's here. I just got to find the right color for each of these things to start with. Okay, and my color reference is locked, but what I can do is now use my paint bucket, and instead of going to the color palette here, because it can be really hard to find colors for yourself, either through the color selector or through the swatches, is if I like the tongue color, I'm just going to hold down Option, and that's going to change it to the eyedropper tool, and then I can steal that color right from any source. Right? And then there's no shadow color for that, but I'm not worried about shadows yet. So then I might as well pick maybe a darker pink for those background legs. So it's going to be a pink horse as a flat color. Now what about the little freckles? There's black freckles there, so maybe I choose something dark, like maybe this dark blue to fill in here. Okay. Now don't worry, all my flatting is still there. This is on a new layer on top. I'm replacing them. I'm going to keep the rainbow, but I want to intensify the red. So I'm going to choose that, replace that. Also going to use it there. And then let's see, the yellows. I like this pale yellow of the frog's eye. And I'm going to use that for the skull. And then I can modify it. Yeah, because that's a little too dark. So what I can do now is I go to my color, and it will show me where that color goes on the color selector. And if I want to just modify it, like make it a little brighter and less saturated, then I can paint that in. If I want to modify this one, I'm just going to gray it out a little bit. All right, put that in. Though I like it pretty bright, so I'm going to put it pretty close to white. And maybe orange it up a bit. Yeah. So make them just slightly different from each other. Okay, now what about the teeth? Right now the teeth are yellow. I think that kind of works. But let's play with this yellow instead. And then let's play with a slightly weird discolored tooth right there. I think this yellow is going to be too strong. But I might use these different yellows for the stars as well. Let's get a little variety. Now for the flames, let's go for bright yellow in here. See how that looks. And then if I think that's too strong, maybe I knock it down to something like this. Or even something a little paler like that. Okay, and then I can always shift it. If I don't want that going quite so green, I can just pull this scale down. Choose something close. So this will really help you with your color selections, starting from reference colors and then modifying from there. All right, what about inside? Let's try this blue. This blue is lovely. So what if I